So we have received a new mail regarding the upcoming merger, and a lot of things have changed. Some things for the potential better, but some not so much. A lot of it is very difficult to understand, so I'm going to be going through it in this video with you so that you can understand what it is and be prepared if your kingdom is still eligible for that merger. Hey guys, Mountain here, bringing you another News Corner video, this time regarding the upcoming merger. KOA has sent out a new mail today regarding the merger itself and what it actually means to us, the players, and how we should be prepared for it. So let me just move this slightly. I'm not going to read through everything, or maybe I should. Well, let's just have a look, okay? So they start off with saying, hello to everybody, this is the development log, and they just want to let us know about the Kingdom Covenant feature and the new schedule based on their recent progress. So they've been sending out these mails. This is the third mail now, and they're talking about how they're going to change the way it worked before. The way it worked before was that the three most powerful players in the kingdom and the three strongest alliances, the leaders of the three strongest alliances, those 6 players would be the ones who would potentially represent your kingdom. Okay, so what would happen is those 6 players would be nominated, and then everybody in your kingdom gets to vote on who out of those 6 players they want to represent them for this merger that was coming up. If one of those players, for example, one of those top power players was also a leader, they would be able to give their vote as a proxy to somebody else. Okay, so but the point was still you had 6 top players in your kingdom that were nominated, and then each player got to vote for who they wanted to be the diplomat. Okay, and the diplomat's job was then to contact and talk to the other kingdoms that were eligible and say, right, we interested in potentially merging. What does your kingdom have? How many active players do you really think you've got? And try and find a way, or find a kingdom that would suit both player bases, sort of thing, and mark each other as merge for alliance, and then get ready to start the merger. Okay, now on the other hand, they have changed it, and it says here, many of you were worried that it might be unfair to select envoys through voting, and that the actual result of the vote could be inconsistent with the status quo of the kingdom. Therefore, we conducted a range of surveys in order to collect suggestions and improve the current feature design. First of all, I never got a survey. Did anybody else get a survey? I wasn't asked about this change, so I don't know. Maybe it was only a few specific people. Maybe it was only moderators. Who knows? If you were asked about this, if you were given a questionnaire about the merger specifically, please drop a comment down below, let me know. Based on the results, we have decided to change the process of envoy selection. For now, the players in a kingdom will have to attack a monster similar to Morgana's Golem, or like the Stone Sentinels and that, or like we just did now, the Stone Sentinel, similar to that, okay, and deal the highest amount of damage possible. The Lord with the highest damage will be appointed Kingdom Envoy. 1 kingdom, 1 envoy, no more voting. Okay, so now it will literally be who is the biggest and strongest in your kingdom. That's it. Now, the downside to that is, what if that particular player is all about killing everybody? He's one of the players whose whole sole goal is to spend all the money he can on the game, improve everything he can, which is great, but then destroy everything in the process. So now he's the one who gets to vote what your entire kingdom is going to do. So it becomes an iron fist as opposed to a democracy. Not so sure if that is going to be a good thing or not. Honestly, if let's just say, for example, your top strongest player is a player who doesn't follow kingdom rules and does their own thing because they're the strongest and the biggest and nobody can stop them, they just do whatever they want. And let's say, for example, they've managed to have 100 people quit the game because of it. You're now having that person responsible for merging your kingdoms. Not a very good thing, KOA. Not a very good thing at all. Okay, so let's go to the next part. Based on the above design changes, we made some adjustments. The final plan is as follows. The envoy selection stage. So this is where it's going to be attacking this monster. Whoever gets the most damage is going to be the ruler. Okay. This stage determines the envoy of the kingdom primarily through damage output. To be eligible, the player's stronghold must be level 30 or above. Fine. Every eligible player will have their own base score set automatically based on their current battle stats. Okay, fair enough. During the activity stage, players can make multiple attempts to improve their damage in order to improve their ranking. So again, you're going to, like the last Stone Sentinel, you're going to just keep attacking and attacking and attacking and attacking and attacking and attacking until you can get your highest possible outcome. You know, now, for example, if you're running Critical March and you're running Brutus, okay, one's 30% chance, one's 20% chance, you've got 3 in 50 chance of hitting your maximum results. So you're going to attack this thing 50 times, for example, 60 times, whatever the case might be, to get the absolute maximum you can. Or you're not in one of the top 10 players, so you're not even going to bother anymore. So now you, first of all, you're going to sit back and go, right, well, I'm already out of the interest of this merger because I can do nothing about it. Okay. At the end of the stage, the player from each kingdom with the most damage will become the envoy of that kingdom, one envoy per kingdom. In addition, when your damage reaches the target, you will become a Star Lord. So there will be a target for you to achieve, and if you get it, you become a Star Lord. I wonder if Marvel's going to be upset about that. Which will affect the rating of your kingdom. See further down for information about kingdom rating. Right. Then the envoy and kingdom power stage. This stage is mainly to announce the selection of the envoy of the kingdom's strength evaluation. Combined with the adjustment of the envoy selection, we also optimize the kingdom's strength evaluation method. Here are the major changes. Now, major meaning that there are more, but these are just the ones that are the big ones that they want to tell us about. The kingdom's overall strength is based on how many KBK events the kingdom has won and lost during the past 2 years. Now, if your kingdom's still fresh, this isn't going to apply to you, really. You maybe have done no kingdoms, no KBKs, for example, or you've done 1 or 2 KBKs. So, again, majority of the kingdoms are going to be pushed aside. The strength of its top players. Okay, so the people who spend a lot of money in the game, they are the ones who's going to be considered. Adding the star, okay, additional design. Adding the star rating of the kingdom instead of the original overall strength rating of the kingdom. So we're going to be rated according to stars. 1, 2, 3, 4 stars, okay? Kingdom stars are determined by the sum of the stars of all the lords of the kingdom with a maximum of 4 stars per kingdom. So it's going to go according to your top players. It's going to go according to your KBK wins and losses over the last 2 years. And each of these lords is going to receive a certain amount of points towards stars, and your kingdom overall is going to earn a certain number of stars according to those points. Then the next part is kingdom covenant stage. At this stage of the merger, each envoy of the high-rated kingdoms will create a new covenant group. Now, high-rated, they don't say what exactly that is, but I'm assuming, considering it's a 4-star system, they're probably talking about 4-star kingdoms. Kingdoms that have reached 4 stars. So you're really big kingdoms, okay? Maybe a couple of 3 stars if there aren't enough 4 stars to fit whatever mold that they're looking at. But generally, I think it's going to be 4 stars, maybe a few 3 stars, okay? So those kingdoms, those high-rated kingdoms will start off the new groups, okay? So think of it this way. Let's say, for example, you've got 10 kingdoms that are 4 stars. Each one of those kingdoms is going to represent a new group, okay? As we have mentioned before, the reason why we have adopted the approach of merging servers is that this way we can better ensure that your servers have more active players. Great, so a lot of the dead castles and dead players and that sort of thing that aren't in the game anymore will be gone. That's fantastic. That is really fantastic. That's probably one of the biggest selling points of the merger. Also, number one, that. Number two, less servers for the customer care center, for example, to deal with, and maybe they can actually get around to fixing a few things. Right, the activity and overall strength of each kingdom can also be improved, and the strength levels between different kingdoms can be more equal. No, I kind of disagree with you there to an extent. Depends on how you're going to be doing it, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. This will mean that players on each server will have a better experience of current and future events based on that. Our covenant rules are as follows. So now remember, each leader has a new covenant, and these are the rules for those groups. According to the kingdom stars of each kingdom, all high star kingdoms automatically create an independent covenant. This high star kingdom automatically becomes the leader of the covenant, and its envoy has the authority to approve applications to join the covenant. So those leaders will create a new group, and everybody else who isn't in those leaders or who didn't make it to those top points will then be applying to those kingdoms and say, we would like to potentially join you, and they get to say yes or no. A kingdom that cannot create a covenant may apply to join the covenant of its own choosing and can only apply to one covenant at a time. So you're going to apply to a kingdom, your first choice, for example. If they decline you, you're going to then look for another kingdom and apply there. Same as an alliance. You're going to look for which alliance you want the most. You're going to apply to that. And if you get denied, you maybe look for a second alliance. To join a covenant, certain conditions must be met. The total number of kingdom stars in the covenant shall not exceed 4 stars, and the active kingdom value shall not exceed our upper limit. So they are going to be putting a cap on it. What does that mean? Well, the first thing is they very cleverly split up the biggest kingdoms, the highest rating kingdoms. If you've already got a 4-star, you're not going to have anybody join you because you can't go higher than 4 stars. There'll be a limit. So let's say you in the bottom limit of 4 stars, you can take some kingdoms into you that will bring you to the top of that 4-star limit, but that's about it. So they're not going to have one kingdom that has got literally all the biggest players. That was a very clever thing for them to have done. The second thing is, you've got these 4-star kingdoms or the highest rated kingdoms, and people who are applying to them, let's say for example kingdom 1 has a 2 or 3 of the 3-star or the next lowest level kingdom apply. If they accept those, they're not going to get any more kingdoms into them. So the other kingdoms will start filling up with more and more and more. And the idea at the end of the day is that each pocket that they create, so each high level alliance creates a group, and this group will eventually be populated with enough other kingdoms that it makes this group a 4-star merger kingdoms, for example. Second kingdom, same thing. Third kingdom, same thing. So eventually you've got these few kingdoms that are all rated 4 stars. That's the idea behind it. Once a kingdom has joined a covenant, it may withdraw from the covenant at any time. In the same way, the leader has the right to remove them and replace them with other kingdoms. So basically, you join a kingdom. If they accept you, you can still say no thank you before the merger happens and leave. But the same thing applies the other way around. The kingdom accepts you, and now all of a sudden your kingdom thinks, great, we've got a good kingdom that we're merging with. Everything's going to be what we're looking for, and all of a sudden that kingdom gets what to them might be a better opportunity or a better position to get a different kingdom in. They can just drop you, and now you're stuck again looking around. Not so sure if that was a good idea, guys, but it is what it is. Okay. Covenant check stage. This stage is designed mainly to check whether there are any kingdoms that have not yet acceded to a covenant, and or whether there are any kingdoms that have applied for accession to a covenant and have not yet been accepted. If such cases exist, we will pair these kingdoms systematically. So what does this mean? This is kind of like schoolyard tricks. You know, you've got the two teams picking who they want. Now, because of the way they're designing it, the biggest kingdom alliances, the leaders of these groups, can't pick more big kingdoms because they're going to reach their 4 stars too quickly, or they're already too high and they can't pick other big kingdoms to join them. So what's going to happen is that leader is going to sit back and potentially go, okay, our kingdom works well together and we want more farming. We like to farm other players and that sort of thing. So what are we going to do? We are going to accept all the small kingdoms we can, and we're going to fill ourselves up with all these small kingdoms. All these small kingdoms come in, and all of a sudden these big players are just destroying everybody and farming everybody, and it's potentially really bad for the game. You can potentially lose a lot more players by doing it this way. It is very risky. Now, all those players who aren't picked, okay, so let's say you, for example, you didn't apply, okay, or you couldn't apply for some reason. Now what's going to happen is they're going to turn around and go, you and you are not in any merger, so where can we fit in your kingdom's points? That one has enough opening for you, you're going over there. That one's got enough opening for you, you're going over there, and so on and so on. Again, you now got potentially much weaker kingdoms that are being forced into an even stronger kingdom than what they had before. Not very clever. Not very clever. The other side of it is they might turn around and go, okay, we've got enough of these small kingdoms that aren't part of any merger, that if we lump them together, they themselves will be big enough in terms of activity and that to make a new kingdom, and they'll lump them together into one. That's great. That is fantastic, because they can balance out those points and you won't have one big group heading up all these small little kingdoms. So if they do it that way, that'll be fantastic. But if they take those kingdoms and slot them in wherever they can, it's going to be detrimental to the smaller kingdoms or the newer kingdoms, for example, that are in this, that aren't big enough to really stand for themselves, if you understand what I mean. Now, there's a little bit more to it with what they say at the end of this mail, so I'll come back to that shortly. But just bear in mind that this could potentially go really, really badly if they don't pair up. If the system automatically, or the automatic pairing of the system doesn't go according to your kingdom's value and trying to match it with other kingdoms of the same value. If they're just trying to slot you in, it's going to be a big problem. Right, so that's there. Then number 5, covenant announcement stage. This stage is mainly to announce the covenant results of all the kingdoms that are participating. Notice that word, that are participating in the kingdom's merger. And the kingdoms of the same covenant will eventually merge into a new kingdom. So this is where they send out a mail saying, okay, cool. And it probably won't be a mail to all kingdoms saying these are all the kingdoms and all the players. It will probably be a mail will go out to all the kingdoms that are merging into one and say, you guys are all merging together with these other kingdoms. Have fun. Okay. That's only if you are participating. Now, again, that word comes into it. So there's point 4, point 5, both have another point with what comes at the end here. Then we are this is the part. This is the part that it's potentially going to come back really bad on them. The next one is, we are only opening the server merger to kingdoms that are older than a year and a half. And we will announce the final list of kingdoms participating in the server merger before the merger starts. So if your kingdom is not a year and a half old, our kingdom isn't a year and a half old, we're kingdom 857. And we were really looking forward to merger because a lot of our kingdom is dead. A lot of players have died. This game, especially if you're a free-to-play player or a minimal spend player, this game is going to be hard for you. It's going to be very, very difficult. And a lot of people have quit the game because of it. So our kingdom, for example, whilst our kingdom is 6, 7, 8 months old sort of thing, half our kingdom is dead. We were looking forward to fresh blood and getting new people in our kingdom so that we could actually keep growing and not waiting for just things like KBK and things like that. So this is going to be a big problem for a lot of kingdoms. And if you look at the kingdoms overall, I mean, let's just have a look here. I honestly think that if you're looking, let's just go to, not there, sorry. Let's go to the map quickly, the world map. I just want to see how many kingdoms we actually currently have. Okay, let's just make that smaller. So we've got, let's go all the way to the bottom. Okay, kingdom 800 and we're getting there. Kingdom 901. Okay, kingdom 901 is the last kingdom. And I reckon you're probably looking at around about kingdom 750, 650, somewhere around there, that have been a year and a half old or older, maybe even less than that. So half your kingdoms, almost half your kingdoms that are out there right now are not going to be part of this merger. So any of the newer kingdoms who are sitting back like ours that have got stagnant players in quite a few places have just lost out. So in point 5 here where it says the participating kingdoms, that's exactly what it means. Your kingdom is most likely not going to be allowed to merger. Interesting. Again, part 4, the stage is designed mainly to check whether there are any kingdoms that have not yet acceded to the covenant, and or whether there are any kingdoms that have applied for accession to a covenant and have not yet been accepted. If such cases exist, we will pair these kingdoms automatically. Now, that might just mean that all the kingdoms who are not part of the original stage, meaning those, as they said, that are not a year and a half older, might fall into that and get automatically repaired. But the fact that they specifically state that we are only opening this server merger to kingdoms that are older than a year and a half makes me think not. I honestly think majority of the kingdoms, or any of the newer kingdoms, will no longer be part of this merger and have just lost out completely. So they have kicked out a third of the kingdoms from this merger. They've also kicked out 2/3 of the players by saying only the top players who can cause the most damage are going to be able to rule the kingdoms in terms of the merger and diplomacy and envoy. Then they've said whoever is the player that hits this golem type creature the most or the hardest with the most damage, irrespective of his reasons for playing the game, irrespective of how he plays the game or his feelings for the rest of his kingdom, they are going to now be, for all intents and purposes, the kingdom ruler in deciding where and how to actually be merged with other kingdoms. So there you have it. And lastly, they have announced, due to some adjustments to the kingdom envoy selection method, our development timeline has been affected. The kingdom covenant function has been launched in the testing stage. In order to ensure the quality of players' experience, we have tentatively set the final launching date for January the 6th, 2021. So it's not that far. It's very, very close. Please pay attention to the upcoming official announcement. So there'll be an announcement that goes out. There'll also be a message that goes out and says who's actually eligible, which kingdoms are eligible for doing this merger and that sort of thing. But yeah, as a whole, it looks like there is going to be a lot of players in King of Avalon that are now no longer considered for growing further. Well, that's about it, guys. If you've got any comments, or if you were part of the survey, please let me know. Drop a comment down below. Otherwise, until the next video, guys, be good, be well, and be safe. Bye.